and welcome to the Bruce channel. I'm Bruce. Lots to get to, but it would only be appropriate, I think, to begin by acknowledging the vehicle attack near the Parliament building in London on Wednesday. We still don't know all the details. We do know the driver's name, Khalid Masood. He's British born. He killed 4, scores injured. Using a vehicle has become popular in as much as it's a lot easier to drive a vehicle into people than it is to build a bomb. ISIS has claimed responsibility. There's no specific reason to doubt that, but it may or may not be true. Even if the man were not affiliated, if he was simply a deranged man off his meds, ISIS would likely take responsibility in order to further their perceived influence. So the attacker was killed by the police. Our good wishes go out to all those affected. In a spirit of solidarity, France on Wednesday night dimmed the lights of the Eiffel Tower. France, of course, has had enough of its own terrorist attacks of late, but it's been 10, 12 years since Great Britain had one. Once upon a time, though, long before anyone ever heard the term radical Islam, there were many, many terrorist attacks in Great Britain, in London, and in Northern Ireland. That's because the Irish Republican Army wanted the UK out of Northern Ireland. They declared virtual war. They planted car bombs in the UK, in London, and in Belfast. I remember there was a bloody attack on the streets of London, Hyde Park, during the summer of '82. I know because I was in Florida that summer. It was during a military parade, changing of the guard. Pictures taken at that time became infamous for showing the carnage. 3 soldiers were killed immediately and another one died later. Several horses were killed. It was pretty horrible. Those times, which collectively are known as the Troubles, certainly can be viewed as domestic terrorism, lasted for decades. Queen Elizabeth II's own cousin, Lord Mountbatten, was killed when the IRA blew up the boat he was off. He was in off the coast of Ireland. You know, hate and violence always beget more hate and violence, more revenge. You would think that, you would hope that, for all the years we human beings have been hitting and smiting and hating and snarling at each other, you would think we might sooner or later figure out that revenge will come back at us. It's sort of like karma, except without the metaphysical overtones. Small bit of irony. The day before the London attack, on Tuesday, the 21st, Martin McGuinness died at the age of 66. Who's Martin McGuinness? He was a former leader of the IRA. He was believed to have directed or even been a part of some of those IRA terrorist attacks. He vowed never to quit fighting, never to negotiate. During the time he was a firebrand, that was from the 60s to the 90s, almost 4,000 Irish, both Protestant and Catholic, were killed. Countless others wounded, maimed for life. I knew a fellow some years ago. It was back when I was in Florida, so it would have been the time of the bombing. He was of Irish descent, but American born. You know, he played baseball, just a regular guy. One day we were just talking about this or that or anything. I was working with him. It was an easy conversation. And suddenly he became tense. He became raw with emotion. His Irish heritage mandated that he view the British as invaders, as conquerors. That the hatred that this American, born of Irish descent, born Catholic, the hatred that he bore toward the English was it was palpable. And yet Martin McGuinness, who died this week, was one of the negotiators at the Good Friday Accord 19 years ago, 1998. You know what? Ireland is no longer full of bombings, of the need to avenge. One would hope that as a species, we might learn sooner rather than later that no good comes of violence. Okay, one last Irish word. It was too late to mention it in time for St. Patrick's Day, but All right, so we are right up against it vis-a-vis March Madness and the tournament, and as of my deadline, 3 #1 seeds remain. Gonzaga, whom I decided to root for just because they're so small and improbable, another #1. North Carolina, where I live, is still in it. And a lot of my friends are pleased about that, and I also have a Jayhawk friend. So Kansas is also a #1 and still in it. But of the 8 teams alive, as I'm recording this, only 4 will advance, and then all of their identities will be determined by Sunday night. Next weekend, well, you never know how these things will go. Boring, exciting. Saturday night, the semis. And then Monday night, the 2 winners will meet to determine this year's NCAA Men's Division 1A basketball champion. You know, exciting, boring. Whenever I think of March Madness, I am reminded of what some have called the greatest tournament game ever. And I've seen it, but I wasn't watching it in real time. While it was actually being played, I was in a car, listening on the radio. I had been covering the state high school basketball championships in Chapel Hill, was driving home. To set the stage, the Duke Blue Devils were the defending champions, and the last time a team had won back-to-back was 19 years previously. Their opponent was Kentucky, and Kentucky's basketball program has its own rich history. And the game itself was close all the way. Duke led at the half, 50-45, but regulation time ending, it was tied at 93, so OT. During the OT, it was back and forth, back and forth. Finally, Kentucky goes up 103 to 102 with 2.1 seconds. 2.1 seconds left in the game, and because that came with Kentucky scoring, Duke would have to inbound the ball with only 2.1 seconds from behind Kentucky's basket the entire length of the court. Grant Hill, who currently serves as college basketball analyst for CBS, heaved it some 70 feet to Christian Laettner. Really, without that perfect pass, it's over. Laettner caught it. Take a look.
7.8 seconds remaining. Woods. Oh, my goodness. How did he get the shot off? There's the pass to Laettner. Puts it up. Yes!
So isn't it grand, thanks to video and YouTube, we can call it and other things like it up whenever we want.
Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. Or wait, I can let others do it.
Welcome back. Remember, you can write to us at the Bruce Channel at yahoo.com, and you can watch all of our previous shows and episodes either our Facebook page or at tinyurl.com/Bruce Channel. So, last month came news that Radio Shack, which previously sought bankruptcy protection and then partnered with wireless provider Sprint, they were going to go bankrupt again. Also last month, JCPenney, one of the great retailers in history, announced that it would close 2 distribution centers and as many as 140 stores. This week, Sears Holding, that's the parent company of Sears Roebuck and Company and of Kmart, announced their very survival is seriously in doubt. It hasn't had a profit since 2010. It lost over $2 billion last year. A year ago, its debt was $3 billion. Today, it's over $4 billion. It has been trying. They too have closed stores. They tried having small satellite stores. There was one here in High Point that closed a year or two ago. They've been selling off components. They sold the Craftsman tool brand. That really is a good tool. Lifetime guarantee. They sold that to Stanley Black & Decker. Stanley and Black & Decker used to be different companies. They merged. Sears was once the retail colossus of America, so rich, so fortress-like that in just a few years ago, 1970, construction began on what would become, for a while, the tallest building in the world, the Sears Tower. Commonly it's still called that, but officially it is no longer. It is the Willis Tower. But that fortress of retail didn't foresee what was unforeseeable: machines that talk to each other. And yes, certainly, Walmart made severe advances and overtook Sears. I remember when Walmart first came to North Carolina, I was excited because at the time, Kmart's employees often seemed scarce or uninterested. So Walmart became the country's largest employer. In fact, that's why Kmart merged with Sears, to gain some economies of scale. But still, they didn't foresee the unforeseeable: machines that talk to each other. Internet. Remember when you asked, what's that? Television ads would say, go to our internet site, go to www.whatchamacallit.com. And we said, what? Enter Jeff Bezos. Buy your books on Amazon. Now it's buy your everything at Amazon. And many of us do. Yeah, if you're out of toilet paper, then free 2-day shipping isn't quite good enough. But I see why Walmart is now trying to compete with Amazon by offering free 2-day shipping, and their ads proclaim no fees. But in my opinion, the reason they can't fully compete with Amazon is at Walmart.com. You can only buy what Walmart sells. If you want to buy something harder to find, because Amazon partners with everyone, you can find it at Amazon. I got a Yamaha PA system from Amazon. I shopped the local music store first. He wasn't a Yamaha dealer, and it wasn't any cheaper from Amazon, but it was free shipping. I'm a bit saddened by the news that JCPenney and Sears are closing. A little less saddened, perhaps so, for Radio Shack. But it's the employees for whom you have to feel sorry. It's like I've said before, and this is not a political statement. It's merely an observation, a conclusion. Donald Trump can't bring the coal miners' jobs back. Even if we were to allow the skies to billow with coal soot again, machines do more of what people used to do. The grocer has checkout clerks, right? But it probably also has check yourself out lanes too, and every one of those is a lane that doesn't need an employee. If Amazon is taking market share from Walmart, Walmart should have no complaints. They're the original rogue retailer in small towns everywhere. Places too small for a Sears or a Penny's. Walmart came in, and family-owned hardware stores and appliance stores and drug stores and everything else couldn't compete. If you know Cleveland, B&B Appliance is closing. It's closed. A couple months now. They were in business for 93 years. No, they weren't Sears, but they were a local icon. I know better than to say never, usually. But, long ago, who would have thought these voices coming from a box? The radio would later come with pictures. Or later that those pictures would come in color. Or that you could change the channels like this. Or that there would be hundreds of channels. Or that there would be a Bruce channel. I'm pretty sure, though, never say never, but I'm pretty sure I won't live long enough. This is peculiar. It's actually a double-edged observation. So there are driverless cars. The technology will only get better. GPS is already pretty well in advance, and I may not want to give up my hands from the wheel yet, but I have acknowledged that GPS is better than I am at plotting the best route. Digressing for a moment back to jobs, what happens to the 30,000 or so truck driving jobs, which form a middle class, pretty good living? If trucking companies can have driverless trucks, why hire truck drivers? So I won't live to see driverless cars fully engaged, but, you know, never say never. One other vehicle thing. Say what you will about stores like Sears, knowledgeable salespeople were useful, were helpful. When you bought a TV at Sears or Penny's or B&B Appliance, you would talk to someone. You'd pick his brain, and yes, he had a vested interest in selling you something. But if he talked up RCA versus Magnavox, he would tell you why. Same true of a microwave. Or back in the day, not that long ago, this computer over that computer. Today we read reviews and then we click somewhere. Anyway, so I won't live long enough to see this go mainstream. But there's a local Dodge dealer whose big push for more than a few years now. Go online, look at our inventory. This is, I'm sure, it's obvious, more directed at new versus used cars. But pick out the car you want, click, voila, you bought the car. What could be easier? We'll even deliver it. We guarantee the best price for something like 500 miles. That may one day become SOP. Again, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to live to see it become mainstream. Not a lot of people would miss dickering with the price, but really, you'd buy a car without driving it first? Okay, an update. Some months ago, I showed you a video. Romaine lettuce. Take a thin slice off the bottom, put it into water, it'll regrow in a few weeks. So I began the procedure, I showed you a pic, and I told you I would report. Except I forgot to report. But forgive me, that's because the results were so forgettable. Yeah, some new growth did emerge, but the bottom rotted, became, you know, soupy, and that was that. So, new info. Yes, put it in water, new growth will emerge, then put it in dirt. I put this. It's actually red leaf lettuce, but it grows in the shape of romaine, and here it's in a planter now. You can see it's still doing okay. Whether or not it does any better long term, we'll find out. Oh, and then thinking the bottoms are the same, if you take a thin slice off the bottom, I'm also trying it with celery. All right, so last week I talked about the new movie King Kong Skull Island, and then I waxed nostalgic about the original and the 2005 version, which was an homage to the original. But it's, you know, been like a dozen years since I'd seen that one, and then having freshly reminded myself how much I liked it, I put in the disc. Yes, it was an homage, but there was also so much that I'd forgotten. First, it turns out that director Peter Jackson, yes, he of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, among other things, you know, but it turns out he saw the original King Kong when he was a little boy, and that became his favorite movie, and that's why he wanted to become a filmmaker. So yes, some of the lines in the 2005 film were directly lifted.
We're millionaires, boys. I'll share it with all of you. Why, in a few months it'll be up in lights on Broadway. Kong, the eighth wonder of the world!
We're millionaires, boys. I'll share it with all of you. In a few months, his name will be up in lights on Broadway. Kong, the eighth wonder of the world.
And I'd mentioned there is more backstory in the update. I'd forgotten this, though, which is really kind of cute. Carl Denham, portrayed in the 2005 version by Jack Black, has lost his leading actress to something or other. He needs an actress who, because the wardrobe is already purchased, wears a size 4. Remember, too, this is 1933, the Depression. In the back of a cab, he's talking with his assistant.
Maureen pulled out. She pulled out? Yesterday. I told you. I gotta get to a phone, talk to harmless people. She's unavailable. Myrna Lloyd, Clara Bow, Mae West. You'll never get her into a size 4. You gotta get a girl that'll fit into Maureen's costumes. Faye's a size 4. Yes, she is, but she's doing a picture with RKO. Cooper, huh?
in life.
Cooper, huh? I might have known. Yeah, see, Marion C. Cooper is the maker of the original King Kong. One of the makers, he was the driving force. And in fact, as alluded to in The Cab, he made that film at RKO. Oh, asking about Fay? That's Fay Wray, who originally portrayed heroine Ann Darrow. And asking about her in The Cab was another inside joke. Speaking of Fay Wray, in preparation for the film, Naomi Watts, who played Ann Darrow in 2005, Naomi Watts met with Fay Wray. And although she initially refused, it is reported that Ms. Wray ultimately agreed to do a cameo in the new film, in which she would have said the final line, "'Twas beauty killed the beast." But she was old. She died in her sleep at age 96. That was before filming began. Oh, when she died, the Empire State Building turned off its lights that night. Another bit of homage from director Peter Jackson, although it's gone and it never appeared in the original, there are script records. There's a scene called In the Spider Pit. Jackson's version has a spider pit scene. Oh, in the beginning of the original, they show you what is called an ancient Arabian proverb. Well, it's fake, but again, honoring the original, they included that word for word in 2005. Finally, the musical score. The original score was by Austrian-born composer Max Steiner. Now, he did a few other things. Actually, lots of things. The Charge of the Light Brigade. My Own True Love, which you also may know as Tara's theme. Yeah, actually, the Gone for the Wind theme. David O. Selznick wanted Steiner to use mostly public domain music, you know, Beethoven or Mozart or Chopin or whatever. That's what a lot of B-Westerns were doing. But Steiner wrote a complete score. Each scene had its own character. Each character had its theme. You know, much of what they do today, and Max Steiner invented that. He also did some TV work.
77 Sunset Strip. 77 Sunset Strip. 77 Sunset Strip.
And his last big hit, remember this is Max Steiner who scored King Kong. Bum, bum. All right, finally this has been on Animal Planet, National Geographic, it's been on Voice of America. I alluded earlier to a hope that our species might one day learn to live, if not in love, at least in peace with each other. As with other subjects mentioned, perhaps not in my lifetime, but I believe that probable or not, we should aspire always toward the better in us, and there can be hope. I guess it needs to be rewritten, and the lion shall lie down with the lamb and the tiger and the bear. Oh my. And that's about it. Tomorrow, March 27, is a very special day. It's International Whiskey Day. Truth. Enjoy it. And you know, you've really got to appreciate the people who come up with this stuff. Speaking of appreciating, Tuesday, the 28th, is Weed Appreciation Day. Appreciation full speed ahead. Next Saturday, of course, the semis for basketball. That's April 1st, and since it is April 1st, I think I will not bet any money on any of the outcomes, because that day I'm sure to be even more easily parted with it. So, all right, whether you appreciate your whiskey or your weeds, I hope your upcoming week, alliteration, huh, is the best one you've ever had.